fact, 94% of in-person sales is non-verbal. Only 6% of in-person sales are the actual words that you use. The rest of the 94% is tonality, body language, and a lot of that is determined by your energy. So you don't want to have higher energy at the start or at the end of the call.
Welcome to the Master Dealmaker's Secrets podcast. And now, here's sales growth strategist, John Blake.
Welcome to Master Dealmaker's Secrets. I'm John Blake. This is episode 273, and today we're going to talk about 5 skills all top sales earners have mastered. So if you are looking to become the top earner in your business, in your industry, you must master these 5 skills. So some of them I'm going to give you some practical ways that you can apply or you can go about mastering these skills. Others require a longer conversation, but simply having an awareness of what they are is a great place to start to begin to get better at them, because once you've mastered these top 5 skills, you will have very little in your way in terms of earning great commissions and a fantastic income from being in sales. So the first one is you need to become really good at uncovering your client's problem. So many sales calls that I listen to, they either don't uncover a big enough problem or they don't drill down into the impact of the problem. And so a problem can impact somebody in a number of different ways. The first one can be through how long it's been affecting them, so the duration. The second one is the impact. So how is not solving this problem impacting this particular person's world or this particular organization's world if you're selling business to business? What was the trigger? So what was it that actually caused this problem? So asking that question can allow you to uncover the problem and also discover the extent of the problem and how big a problem it is, and more importantly, whether the person's actually motivated to do something about it. And the fourth way that you can uncover the problem is to understand what was the cause of the problem in the first place. So what I hear a lot of salespeople do is that they hear a problem, but then they simply move on with the conversation and ask the next question, not understanding that they have got an opportunity to properly qualify this person and find out whether this is a problem that they want to solve, and if they're actually motivated to solve that problem. And more importantly, if the consequences of not doing anything about it and not solving that problem are actually greater, if the cost is greater to actually stay where they are than the cost of investing the time, the energy, and the money in your particular solution. So getting good at understanding the problem is a very, very important part. And then the other part of that is understanding the 3 biggest problems that your clients have that you can solve and the reason why they come to you. So what are the 3 biggest problems that your clients have that they come to you with that you can solve? So the first layer of this is obviously asking the questions that uncover those problems. But sometimes your potential client doesn't actually share what those problems are. So sometimes you have to articulate those problems in what I call the drop-down menu, where you list the 3 biggest problems that clients come to you with that you can solve so that they can actually select the one that's most relevant to them. And they really are the 2 most powerful ways to uncover a problem. But regardless, the overarching idea here is that if you want to become a top earner in sales, you've got to get really good at this. So I've just given you a couple of different ways that you can do that. But suffice to say that this is a incredibly important skill when it comes to earning fantastic money in sales. The second skill is pre-handling objections. Now, there are up to 9 reasons why your client will not buy from you. So there are way more reasons why your client will say no, as opposed to the small number of reasons that your client will say yes. So from a syntax perspective, you've got the start of the conversation and you've got the end of the conversation. And your goal is to, at the point where you actually make an offer or decide not to make an offer because this person isn't qualified, you need to have covered off and you need to have pre-handled all of those objections up until that particular point. And so if you can do that, what will happen is that you will get very little resistance at the back end or in the form of objections. And if you do get objections, they will be easier to get past because you've already pre-qualified them and pre-handled them up front. So the three biggest ones are price, so people not being price qualified. The second one is timing. So people saying, so price is a pretty easy one. Everyone's used to that one, which is, this is more expensive, or, I can get it cheaper elsewhere. So you need to have questions at the front part of your conversation that allow you to qualify that, to dissolve that as an objection. And there's a particular way that we teach on how to do that. But suffice to say that you need to make sure that you've covered the price thing, that you've price qualified them before you make an offer. The second is timing. So the response where someone says, look, I think I might leave it for the time being. Well, if you can qualify the person on timing at the front end, when you make your offer, and if they say, I think I might leave it, you say, well, before when we were talking, you said that this was something that was really urgent and that you needed to do something about it straight away. Okay, so now the person's contradicting themselves because they said that this was actually something that they wanted to fix sooner. And then the third one is spouse. So we need to make sure that the person that we're talking to has got the blessing of their partner, or ideally, if you can have that partner attend. And again, you do not want to make an offer until you have covered off on that potential objection. So they're 3 of the 10 that you could potentially encounter, but they are probably the 3 most common ones: price, timing, and spouse. So far we've had getting good at uncovering and understanding your client's problems. The second one is pre-handling objections. The third one is knowing when to ask for the business. So at this point, if you look at, again, your continuum, you've started the conversation here, you've made your offer here. Well, at some point, you need to know when to ask for the business. So in most cases, that is about reading energy, and that's being able to read the play, and that's having the emotional intelligence to work out whether whether it would be appropriate for you to actually ask for the business. And in most cases, you are having the emotional intelligence that is being able to read if this person has done a number of things, and you've got to literally tick those off. So you've got to go, okay, so does this person have a problem? Do they want to solve the problem? Are they motivated to solve the problem? Do they believe I can help them solve the problem? Are they prepared to invest the time, the energy, and the money in solving this particular problem? Is the cost of doing nothing for them greater than the investment of the time, the energy, and the money? Have I covered off on all the potential things that they might say in terms of objections? So if you can do all of that, then you can make your offer, then you can know that it's appropriate to ask for the business, to ask for the sale. And so what I teach around asking for the business and asking for the sale is that it's like asking someone to marry you. You wouldn't do it unless you were pretty sure that they were going to say yes, right? And so the other part of this is understanding energetically how to actually approach this, because so much of sales is tonality. In fact, 94% of in-person sales is nonverbal. Only 6% of in-person sales are the actual words that you use. The rest of the 94% is tonality, body language, and a lot of that is determined by your energy. So you don't want to have higher energy at the start or at the end of the call. You want to allow the client to get excited through the questions that you ask. And always remember that you can't want this more than they do. So your job is to create an environment where the person decides for themselves that this is a no-brainer. And if you can do that, then you will be in good shape. In a situation where you feel that your energy is smothering theirs or is greater than their energy, in most cases, you're in the process of losing the sale. So energy will determine tonality, will determine how confident you sound. And so really it comes down to understanding the energy that you need to have at each stage of the sales process. So this will be different in terms of if you have a one-step process or a two-step process. But at the start of your conversation where you are doing the discovery part, you need to have genuine childlike curiosity. So your energy is, I'm just not really quite sure whether this is even appropriate for you. Let me find out, if this would be, if this would be the best solution for you. So you don't have this, you don't have this push behind your energy. You're, as I said, genuine childlike curiosity. Your energy is like, yeah, look, let me find it. Let me ask you a few questions. I'm not really quite sure yet whether this is even the right call here, but let me find out a little bit more about what's going on, and then I can make a recommendation one way or the other. Would that be okay? That kind of thing. And then you've got when you make the offer. So you want to be quietly confident. You want to be authoritative, and you want to be informative and neutral, but you also want to have certainty. So you can have quiet certainty and quiet confidence, without sort of being this stereotypical high energy sales type person. And then when you ask for the business, you want to have certainty, but again, you don't necessarily want to have massive energy. You want to be matter of fact. You want to be neutral, like this is a very normal thing for them to do, and that it would be unusual for them not to do it, especially if you've done a really good job of qualifying them at the front end. That'll come through in your tonality. It's like if you've uncovered through the questions that you've asked and helped the person to discover for themselves that the cost of doing nothing is massive, and that the investment in your particular product or service in terms of time and energy and money is a no-brainer compared to the upside for them in terms of solving their problem, well, then that'll come through in your tonality, because it'll be a very normal, straightforward, everyday thing for them to say yes, and it would be unusual for them not to say yes. And so the fifth skill is handling objections, right? So if you've done your job well of pre-handling objections, this should not be an issue. In fact, if the people that I work, they don't really get that many objections. But if it does happen, you still need a way of helping your client to move past those potential concerns or blockages. So look, there really are no new objections, and you're going to hear the same ones over and over again. So if you do hear the same ones over and over again, what it means is that there's something that you need to address in your sales process earlier on so that you can fix that. But in the unlikely event, especially if you've gone through my training, that you do hear objections, you have a framework of dealing with it. So look, as usual, thanks so much for listening, and I will talk to you on the next podcast.
You've been listening to Master Dealmaker Secrets with John Blake. Subscribe to get more in-depth strategies and maximize your sales process with new episodes every other week. And double your inquiry to sale conversion with the lead flow you already have. Go to johnblakeaudio.com for his exclusive, free, no-fluff audio training and companion PDF guide.